Episode 104 of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. In this episode, I have a fireside chat with Tommy Nicolic, whose business has just won America's Best Sandwich Award.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
G'day everyone, and welcome back to Australia's #1 ranking small business marketing show. I am your host, Timbo Reid. You are a motivated small business owner who wants to crush it with their marketing, and we are brought to you by the very good folk at Net Registry. Welcome back everyone. As usual, I'm pretty excited about today's show, I've got to tell you. You might have picked that up from the little intro I did prior to the intro, if that makes sense. I recorded that immediately. I hung up from my guest because I was just so excited what we've got to cover. Now listen, in today's show, I want to tackle a listener question, a great question, and got some marketing ideas that are going to help him promote an ebook he has written as a result of listening to one of my recent episodes. I am going to thank a few people, and then we are going to get stuck in to the interview with, I always get his name wrong every time I go to say it because his restaurant's his cafe's kind of like his name, but not really, if that makes sense. We're going to talk to Tommy Nicolic, who just won Sandwich of the Year in the whole of America. Now, I'm guessing there's a lot of sandwiches made in America, and he's just nailed it. He's won out of all of them. So he just tells a great story of quality and commitment. That's what that interview, or the interview that's coming up, is all about. Before I get into that, Net Registry, guys, the new edition of the Net Registry mag is out, the magazine. It's called Net, N-E-T-T. Do you know you get it? All you need to do is buy a domain name, get some hosting, get something done with Net Registry, and you get a 6-month subscription to this magazine. And it is a high-quality magazine. And the October issue, here's some stuff they cover: making the most of social media metrics, how to sell with email marketing, what to spend on search engine advertising, how to choose a laptop. Well, that's pretty easy. Buy an Apple. Online audience, knowing your target market, and the perfect website, what you need to know. There's a load that magazine covers. I write an opinion piece every second edition, so look out for that in next edition. But grab hold of that. It's a fantastic magazine. And I mentioned last episode that Net Registry are putting together some small business, big marketing exclusive packages for us, for you and I to use. And I will detail them in the next episode. We're still putting the finishing touches on it. Suffice to say, I've got to tell you, there's this startup package, right? In case you haven't got a website and you just want to do some really basic stuff. And it is so cheap and so heavily discounted. So look out for that in the next episode. Visit netregistry.com.au. Okay, listener question. Oh, by the way, welcome to everyone from the Flying Solo community as well. Lovely to have all you solopreneurs along. All right, I have got a question from Ben Evans, and he writes, Timbo, love the energy you bring to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. Thank you very much, Benjamin. I'm writing to say thanks. Plus, you had a guest on a while ago who recommended writing books. We did. Andrew Griffiths, AG, Griffo, on episode 95. If you want to learn how to write a book for your business, which is effectively a glorified business card, have a listen to episode 95 of Small Business Big Marketing. I've since created photography, the few things you need to know, which gives everyone with a camera the ability to take great photos, even if they have no experience at all. Sounds like a good book. I'm aiming to sell 1 million copies. I love this. I'm aiming to sell 1 million copies, so I've priced it for less than a cup of coffee. I have, well, it depends what country you're in. A cup of coffee here, hey, Melbourne, Australia, we're talking $4. $3.50, $4. I have the largest English-speaking community of photographers in Spain, so sales are good already, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on how I could market it further. Let me know if you'd like a complimentary copy. Happy to send you one. Best wishes, Ben Evans. And Ben's website is englishphotographer.com. Now, I'm going to give Ben maybe maybe 6 ideas as to how we can reach that $1 million mark. What a great idea. A million copies at the book's priced at 99 pence, which I don't know, $1.40 Australian or more, something like that. That's a good idea in itself. So, hey, sells 1 million copies. Big Bad Benny, the photographer in Spain, he's a millionaire right there. So, Ben, I hope I can help get you there, mate. Now, I went to here's my ideas on how to get to that 1 million copies. I went to your website, and first and foremost, it was actually really, really hard to find the book. That's not a good thing. Make it easy. And this is a lesson for all of us. Make it easy for people to find things on your website, team. Like, seriously, we sometimes assume too much. We know where stuff is, but other people don't. So, Ben, make it really easy. Right now, I'm just going to your website, and it's hidden under the navigation button coaching. And then if I hit coaching, there's this thing called Learn Photography Book drop-down menu. But then if I click on that, it actually then takes me to your book, which is not called Learn Photography Book. It's called The Few Things You Need to Know. So, mate, make it really easy to find your book on your website. I'd give it a dedicated page. I'd give it a dedicated button on your nav bar. Once you've done that, the other thing I do is add a registration box on the homepage of your website. It'll help you build a list, capture email addresses, use something like Aweber. I'll put a link to Aweber in the show notes, or MailChimp or Campaign Monitor, one of these kind of email list building pieces of software. Some are free, some are really inexpensive. And put the bait out of giving away maybe the first chapter or the first 2 chapters by simply someone signing up, giving them giving you their email and first name, for example. And then it's an exchange. Then you can build a list and you can communicate with them over time. That's what I do at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, where if you give me your name and email, I give you a 19-page fast start marketing report. And then over the course of a number of emails, don't spam you. I just give you good quality marketing information aimed at helping your business. And hopefully over time, you get to know me, you get to like me, and at some point, you might get to buy from me. You may choose to get to buy from me. Number 3, Ben, put a video of yourself talking about why you wrote the book on your website. I'd like to see you. I'd like to connect with you. This is so easy these days. Next week, I'm interviewing someone who has created a product that you can create really smart looking videos for your business using your iPhone. And he shows us exactly how to do that. I love that. Video is so easy these days. So Ben, whack a video on the homepage of your website. I want to hear about the why. People buy the why, not the what, right? Number 4, this is an obvious one. Ben, start podcasting, mate. I actually now believe it is official. Every single small business owner in the world should have their own show. Start a podcast about photography in Spain. You do some beautiful work, Ben. So do a podcast about doing photography in Spain, something like that. And each time have your ebook as a call to action, okay? It's like, hope you enjoyed the show. If you like what I had to say, you can get more of me. Go and buy my ebook at blah, blah. Number 5. Do joint ventures. You've got to increase your distribution, Ben. So do joint ventures with other businesses who share a similar customer group. So photography stores, photography podcasts, photographers generally in other countries. Do JVs with them. Maybe give them 50% of the selling price. It means you're going to have to sell more books, but they're going to increase your distribution significantly. My 6th point, don't know whether eBay still do this, but whether you could actually list it for sale on eBay and just and sell it that way. So Ben, mate, thanks for making contact. Thanks for being part of the show. And I hope that there were some ideas there to help you flog 1 million copies of your book. If you do, please let me know, because that is a reason to pop the champers cork. All right, enough of that. We are going to get on to a fantastic guest that I interviewed last week. As I said, I came across Tommy Nicolic from a website I read called entrepreneur.com. Entrepreneur.com, great website. If you haven't been there, go and check it out. Just full of great articles around business, entrepreneurism, marketing. Hey, marketing, love marketing. And one of the journos there, Mikhail Belikov, had written this article about this fellow Tommy winning Sandwich of the Year. The Travel Channel's Man vs. Food show is who awarded him this award. And this crazy guy on the Travel Channel shortlisted it down to 28 sandwiches throughout America. Tommy ended up winning. I contacted Mikhail, the journo. Mikhail put me directly in touch with Tommy, which was very kind of him. And as a result, Tommy and I have a fireside chat about how you win Sandwich of the Year and how Tommy has been running this family business since the early 1900s. Well, Tommy hasn't been running it since the early 1900s, but the business has been in family hands for that long. Great story. It's all about quality. Guys, enjoy it. Here's Tommy. Tommy Nicolic of Tommy DiNics. Welcome to Small Business Big Marketing.
Thank you.
And may I say, you're the first guest to be on the show from Philadelphia, so big tick to you for that. And secondly, congratulations on winning America's Best Sandwich.
Thank you.
What did, well, first of all, can you explain? I've actually visited a couple of YouTube videos and seen the sandwich for myself, and I got quite emotional when I saw it because I do love my food, Tommy. But for our listeners, could you please describe what's the sandwich called and describe it?
Well, this is a roast pork sandwich, which is something that's typical, for the most part, this style only in cities like Philadelphia and New York. It has an Italian background to it. And over the last 5, maybe 10 years or so, it seems to have caught on with the general public and become something they're going to, as opposed to or along with, I should say, the famous Philadelphia cheesesteak. So the roast pork sandwich has been catching on, and more and more people seem to be drawn to it.
Now you are absolutely underselling this sandwich, because I can tell you now, in Australia, a roast pork sandwich is 2 slices of white bread, a bit of roast pork, some gravy, and if you're lucky, some crackling. But the Tommy DiNics roast pork sandwich is much more than that. So keep going. Lose all modesty and describe it for all it's worth.
Well, all right. We take what is called a fresh ham, which is the leg of the pig. And a fresh ham, not to be confused with something that's been smoked or cured like bacon, is exactly what it says. It's a raw piece of meat. So we get these fresh hams. We have to bone them out and season them on the inside, and then on the outside with rosemary and we use a dry rub also of black pepper, a little oregano, a little basil, parsley, thyme, and then we season the inside of the ham with the fresh garlic and fresh rosemary, and then and kosher salt we use. And then we season the outside of it as well. We put it into our cooler, into the walk-in box cooler overnight, and we let that sit. And then early the next morning, like about now, 4 or 5 o'clock, somewhere in there, we'll take those very same fresh hams, we'll put them in the oven, and we'll make our stock as we're doing that, right from scratch, nothing from a jar or a can. And 5 hours later, we'll pull that roast pork out of the oven.
Wow.
That's the roast pork.
So then you've got this beautiful Italian, well, it wouldn't be an Italian baguette, but a crusty Italian roll, provolone cheese, you've got broccoli, you've got gravy. I mean, it's something to behold.
We use a sharp provolone cheese, and the broccoli is actually broccoli rabe, which is kind of a relative of the standard broccoli you might be used to. And I don't know about broccoli rabe down under. Perhaps it's not something that's served there.
We're not that, Tommy. We're not that sophisticated. But I can tell you, I'll be looking out for it. Listeners, you'd almost hop on a plane to Philadelphia just to get your mouth around one of these. Tommy, I want to talk to you about you've got a family business of fourth generations, but I think I'll come to that in a minute, because the way you were describing America's best sandwich, there's a lot of passion there, and there's also one of the quotes that I heard you say in an interview recently was, you said, "My way of doing business has always been product driven. The only thing I've ever cared about is product quality. I'm always trying to improve the product, not expand our footprint." And that's obvious. I mean, the amount of time you put into creating just that pork is incredible. Tell us about quality, and tell us, how do you maintain that quality year in, year out?
Well, yeah, that's really true of me. I consider myself a very good cook first, and a businessman second, because I believe that the product drives a business. And even to this day, after 40 years in business, and my son's probably worse than me because I've driven that home for him as well. I've never taken from the product, and every once in a blue moon, I'm actually able to even improve it, and I do. And I don't look at it ever as, well, if I do it this way, it will cost me an extra 2 cents that I'll lose on every sandwich. When I see an improvement here and there, I take it, and I still try to tweak my product to see, will this work? Will this make it better? And I've always strived for this perfection, and I've always been driven to produce the best product that I can. And kind of, I won't say let the profit be damned, because without profit you can't survive. But I've never looked at it as how much will I make per sandwich. I barely do the math on that. I look at it as how good is this product, and will people come back? And it's finally kind of caught on.
Finally, after all those decades.
Yes.
Are you ever tempted, because clearly a reduction in quality would so quickly cut your costs and go straight to your bottom line? Are you ever tempted, or quality is just, that is your strategy?
No, I've never been tempted. That's the beginning of the end. And I've seen on numerous occasions where people become popular, and then they start squeezing for profit, and that's not an end in itself. That's the beginning of the end. I mean, that goes nowhere. The people catch on, and suddenly your name's not brought up that much, and you're not that busy. And no, I'll keep the quality up, bring the customers back, and I handle myself that way.
Tommy, when you do improve on the quality, and it does add a cost to the finished product, do you immediately increase your price, or how do you manage the whole pricing thing?
I actually hate to increase price, because you want to remain competitive, and you don't want people to run away because you're higher in cost than everyone else. So you've got to be really careful with price point. And I'm about where I'm supposed to be. So yeah, I kind of keep the price. I kind of keep the price steady, along with my own peer group and what they're charging, regardless of anything else.
How often would you affect changes to your pricing?
In general, I would say I could go a year and a half up to 2 years without raising a price. Now, some of this is out of my control, in the sense that if pork or beef really goes up, and then your hand is forced, and it could be 10 months or 11 months. But sometimes the price is steadier, and it'll be 2 years.
Tommy, tell us about winning America's Best Sandwich. What did it do for your business? Clearly, it got you a lot of publicity. I found you through an article I read in Entrepreneur magazine. In fact, Mikhail Belikov, who's one of the journos there, put me on to you. What's it done for your business? Tell me about the queues. Tell me about the publicity.
Yeah, the queues are longer. The lines are longer. Look, you can't buy publicity like that. You can't advertise and get the same effect, because this is real. It's not something that's bought and paid for by us. It's not our opinion. It's someone else's. And what it's done for us is a lot. It's talk about the bottom line. There you have it. It's better than any publicity you could ever ask for. And it's well, you're here speaking to me now because of it. Mm-hmm. And also we've been the major television stations, local television stations in the Philadelphia area, as well as the newspapers, all picked up on it. And my son and I have done a couple of those television interviews and been on the radio. So you can't get that from buying television time with an advertisement.
Tommy, do you walk down the streets of Philadelphia and people quietly whisper behind their hand, "That's the guy who makes the best sandwich in America"?
Yeah, we hear some of that. Right. Even the guys that work for me that were caught on film, they're telling me all the time, "Oh, I went to so-and-so's, or I was at the movie theater, and somebody said, I know you. You're the guy from DiNics."
That's great.
Yes.
Tell me, what for our listeners in Australia, although this show goes globally, but tell me, what's the setup of your cafe? I've seen it on YouTube, but if I walked up to DiNics, what can I expect to see? A big shop, a little shop?
No, it's a 600 square feet, so it's nothing that's all that big. It is intense. It's a nice looking place. It's in the middle of an 80,000 square foot market, which is the Reading Terminal Market. Now, the Reading Terminal Market is something like approaching 120 years old, and it's always been a market. It's always been a market for its entire lifetime. Mm-hmm. And it's called the Reading Terminal Market because above it was the train station. The Reading line ran right above the building. So here we have this marketplace since 1882 that's still thriving after all that time. And there's a central courtyard in the middle of this market, which has seating, nothing fancy, but very comfortable. And in that center courtyard, there are a number of shops around it, and I'm one of them.
I think it's absolutely fantastic that you've won such a prestigious award, and you're the local sandwich shop, effectively, aren't you? You got it's not a fancy restaurant. It's
no.
I think it's fantastic, Tommy. It's a family business.
Yes.
5 generations, from what I can understand, started in 1954. How did it start?
Well, actually, it started in a sense in the early 1900s. Nobody knows the date because there were immigrants and they didn't write things down very much back then. And, so my grandfather in whatever year, 1918, 1920, 22, I don't know, opened up his butcher shop in an Italian enclave in Philadelphia. And the immigrants lived upstairs. There were 9 kids, 5 brothers, 4 sisters. My father was the oldest brother. And they had this butcher shop underneath. And behind the butcher shop was the kitchen, family kitchen. Mm-hmm. And as time went by, once in a while, someone would buy a piece of meat and they have a party coming up, and they would ask my grandfather to cook it for them, or my father, my uncles. And they would do it and charge them. And then the brothers, of which my father was one, they were all meat cutters. They got the bright idea that they should turn the garage, which was behind the kitchen, so it was butcher shop, kitchen, and then the garage. and they turned the kitchen into a roast pork and roast beef store. So they'd be running from the butcher shop to the kitchen, cooking, and into the little roast pork shop and serving sandwiches.
They just decided to own more of the value chain. They were ahead of their time.
Yeah. So that was. So I was a young guy then, and that's where I got my start. Not so much in the butcher shop, but in the cooking end. And then my cousin Frankie DiClaudio, and that's the D in DiNics. He and I decided to open up our own shop. And then we opened one, and we ran that for 5 years, and we sold it. And then he bought one in South Philadelphia, and I took the one in the Reading Terminal Market. And then my son worked with me since he was a little kid. And when he got out of college, he decided that that's where his career ought to be. And so he's effectively doing much of the labor today.
What's the? I was going to ask what was the advice that your dad gave you when he threw you the keys to the business, but it kind of didn't happen that way, did it?
No. My father, unlike me, was a man of very, very few words. And when I told him I was going to open up my own store,
he was a man of even fewer words.
Oh yeah, he said, "Well, it's a lot of work." So that was the extent of my advice.
Right. So there was no, no little gems.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
okay.
there went my advice, and I did it, and it went well.
Well, and he was right, because from what I can gather, you're still working 50 hours a week. Joey, your son's working 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
Where do you draw on for the passion? How do you maintain the passion?
Well, I'm not sure how to answer that. My name is stamped on that product, and somehow, if the product's not right, it just bothers me a lot. And I just, there's something inside me that keeps me rolling, and it keeps me trying to improve the product and make it just right. I think the average person that walks up to our store, and I know the average person that walks up to our store, doesn't realize that there's hours and hours and hours of preparation behind what they're getting. And they're coming to a shop, and they're ordering a sandwich, and a couple of minutes later they're getting a sandwich. I don't think they realize the preparation and what's behind that. The hours of cutting meat, the hours of cooking. I don't think they realize it, but they come.
I think that goes for. Sorry, I was going to say I think that goes for so many products, Tommy. I was talking to a lady. I was talking to a lady recently who sells fair trade coffee, and she was explaining the whole fair trade thing to me, and she said
right now as we speak.
What's that?
Fair trade coffee. I'm drinking a cup right now.
Oh, good on you. Well, when you think about the sweat and toil that goes from the very start of that process of growing the beans, picking the beans, transporting the beans, roasting, grinding, and then all we're doing is, going to a cafe and paying out $3 or $4 for a cup. I mean, we don't put a lot of thought into where things come from, do we?
No, and many of us don't. Although I must say, probably because of the business that I'm in, I have transferred that to many other businesses mentally, and had the very same thought.
Do you? One of the things that I've also heard you say is, do you feel as though I've been spying on you? By the way.
Excuse me?
I said, do you feel as though I've been spying on you? I've got all these quotes from previous interviews that I've seen you do.
No. I'm glad you're well informed. Ask away.
You said secrets are overrated, fundamentals are not. What did you mean by that?
You did do some homework, didn't you?
I did.
All right. I've been saying that for years. Probably 3 times a week, people see my son or myself or someone that works for me cutting meat or putting seasoning on the meat, because the store is all very much open, and you can see from the outside much of what we're doing. And we'll be seasoning something, and we hear this constantly. Oh, is that your secret recipe? Your secret? And no, the answer is no. I'm not the man who discovered garlic and rosemary. It's been around for centuries. cooking techniques are laid down for centuries and centuries. These things have been around forever. And there really aren't that many secrets, not that many at all. It comes down to fundamentals and doing things right. And so much of the products that we can buy today, I'm talking about food right now, so maybe even most of what we buy right now is portion controlled. It comes in boxes. You pull it out of a box and you microwave it, or you deep fry it, or it's been frozen. You see that all the time, and that's not the way to eat or cook. The way to eat and prepare food and eat is to do something from scratch, and those fundamentals have been laid down for centuries. So it's not secrets; it's doing something right.
I think Colonel Sanders and his advertising agency have got a lot to answer for.
Well, could be. I'm not going to comment.
Well, I think you're right. I'm a marketer. We've all been trained to almost try and create some smoke and mirrors so that what we're seeing is greater than what really is. And as you said, you didn't invent garlic, you didn't invent rosemary. The idea of cooking something slowly and putting love into it, these are not new concepts. You just happen to be practicing them.
They're not. Yes, they're not new. They're not new concepts by any means. They're centuries old, but a lot of it is lost in today's fast-paced world. And people want shortcuts, and you have husbands and wives both working, and many times they don't have the time to do things right. So I think some of these things are lost on the everyday eating public.
I think there's a real irony, Tommy, that you are effectively you could be called a fast food outlet because you walk up and you buy a roast pork roll and it probably takes 2 minutes. So that's a fast transaction, but the actual process it's incredibly slow.
Extremely slow. We get to work between 3:30 and 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And the market doesn't open until 9. So in our particular case, we can't be ready to serve until many hours after the market opens.
What time do you close?
6 o'clock most nights.
So hang on, you get to work at 3:30. You open at 9. You close at 6. I'm guessing you don't go home at 1 minute past 6. What time do you go home?
No, well, if I'm opening, if I'm going there, if I'm getting in 3:30, 3:45 in the morning, I could be leaving at 2.
Yeah.
I have a son and I have people that work for me. We have a staff of 7 or 8 people there, so I don't have to be the one that opens and closes. So if I'm there at starting at 4 a.m., I'm not going home at 7 o'clock at night. I'm going home at something like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I have my son who works 6 days a week. So each of us do get a day off. And in fact, a couple of days off. My son gets 1.
Listeners, I'm talking to Tommy Nicolic, who is the winner of America's Best Sandwich. He's in Philadelphia. Tommy, if I was one of your staff members, how would I describe you as a boss behind your back?
Me? I'm pretty easygoing with the guys. I don't yell. I kid around. And if you have a factory and you have a separate office and you have 100 people working in the factory, it's easy to remain aloof and to stay above and to kind of separate yourself from the men. Mm-hmm. But when you work shoulder to shoulder with guys all the time, at some point you have to say to yourself, I have to be myself. I can't stay aloof. I can't separate myself. So these guys, how many kids they have, what their wives do for a living. If they work, you know where they live. So you can't remain aloof, and you have to become one of the guys. There's just no choice in a business that's small like mine.
So you're a good guy. No one's looking over their shoulder.
Yeah, I like to think so. With my guys, they all know, and this is how I've always done things. If you have a headache in the morning, you come to work, take a couple aspirins. You don't miss. That's what you have to do. That's life. You go to work, and if you suddenly have a terrible toothache at 1:30 in the afternoon, and you have to run to the dentist, I'm not going to cut your pay. I'll work with you. Yeah. So my guys work with me, and I work with them, and they don't miss. And if they have a real problem, I work with them.
Tommy, going back to that quality thing, I imagine you've been in business for decades. I imagine you have some pretty long-standing, very special supplier relationships.
Yes.
What's the secret to a successful supplier relationship?
Well, first of all, with us, they get paid every time they deliver.
COD.
When I go home at the end of the day, I don't go home with the bill outstanding. When they deliver to me, they get a check immediately. So they don't have to wait for a check in the mail 2 months later. They don't have to chase me. And at the end of the week, what's left is mine. So I take care of business immediately. And when you don't write a check and you've got a lot of money in your pocket, you tend to think it's all yours, and that gets small business people into a lot of trouble. Businesses sometimes don't make it because not because their product or their location was bad, but because they don't handle their money right, and they let things get away from them. And when meat's being delivered to you and it's a $1,200 meat bill that came in, a day or two later it becomes $2,400, and it goes up like that, and real soon, real fast, you're in trouble. So I have many of my main suppliers for 10, 20 years and more. So I've maintained a good relationship with my suppliers, and they go out of their way for me because of that. When I call them up, they're ready to deliver, and they're ready to do me favors or take care of me. So it cuts both ways.
Such an asset. That is such an asset. I'm guessing beyond fantastic supplier relationships, you must have some incredibly long-standing, loyal, and very interesting and colourful customers. Can you share maybe one or two stories? Don't name names, but any particular interesting stories or anecdotes about your customers?
Yeah, well, my customers, many of them, I've seen some of them retire. They're people that 30 years ago were young men with young families.
Wow.
They've been customers of mine right up until they retired. Yeah, characters. Yeah, we have some characters that come into the market. There's a guy that used to come in, and he used to have a puppet, which was a monkey on his hand. And he would walk up to the various counters when he shopped in the market, and he would always speak through the monkey, and never talk to you himself. It was always the monkey that ordered. So,
yes.
So that was rather strange.
And as the shopkeeper, did you respond to the monkey or the man?
Well, he responded to the monkey.
Oh, I love idiocy like that. I think that's fun. Makes the world go round.
Yeah, we're across the street from a big convention center.
Right
across the street, and we get people from all over the world. Many Australians. We serve Australians with some regularity over the years. Many Australians.
Well, next time an Aussie walks up, say, "Hey, I was on that small business big marketing show. Do you know it?" They probably won't, but you could give it a go.
I will.
Tommy, one of the final questions I always ask my guests, and I think I'm actually quite looking forward to asking you this. Who's the most famous person you've ever met?
Oh, God. Let's see. I don't know if you guys... last week, Dr. Oz ate a sandwich at our sandwich. I don't know if you get him in Australia.
No, you're going to have to work harder.
Okay, well, he's on national television here in Philadelphia.
Dr. Oz.
And, we had, what's her name? The lady was in the main girl that was in the Spider-Man movie.
Oh, yeah.
She was, what's her name? Good actress.
Spider Girl?
Yeah, she was in there a couple of years ago. What's his name? The Fonz was in a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, Henry Winkler.
Henry Winkler was in. Yeah, his agent called and came in, and he got a couple of sandwiches. That was just 2 weeks ago.
Hang on, what the agent called and said, hey, listen, Tommy, roll out the carpet, mate. The Fonz is coming.
Yeah, right.
That is cool. I love the Fonz. You know, like even speaking to you, I'm getting this sort of half mafiosa kind of feeling and half Happy Days feeling.
Closer to Happy Days.
I loved Happy Days. So the Fonz rocks up. I mean, gosh, hasn't he kind of created a character for himself? He can never be anything but the Fonz.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
One of the great shows. What was the guy's name? It was El's Diner, wasn't it?
What's that? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would be maybe that's what you could do in your next life is to run El's Diner. Tell me, what could we expect? So, Joey, your son's taken the reins. You're still in the business, Tommy. What are you hoping for in the years to come for Tommy DiNics?
Well, you know, I've taught my son everything I know. And I think he's worse than me with the quality-driven idea. So I expect nothing to change there. You know, he was married just almost a year ago, and he's taking care of business much the way I did. So I expect nothing to change in that regard. So the Knicks should remain viable for the decades ahead.
A personal question here, but do you look him in the eye at a point and incredibly seriously say, Joey, make sure you never do, insert whatever it is he shouldn't do, or you must always, is there just some kind of riot act that you read him as the person taking over the business?
Yeah, yes, not so much a riot act, but it's a constant, more like a constant bombardment over the many years. The quality. The bread has to be just right. If the baker's not doing a good job, you've got to call him up. You've got to tell him the bread's not right. You've got to watch every aspect of the quality. Maybe in some ways I'm not the best businessman in the world because I'm so driven on the other end. But it's the quality that I just feel pushes the business along, drives the business, and not the other way around. And that's the way I've always done business. And he gets that. I like to think in some ways that when you go to a small cafe in Paris or Rome, that they did things in a small but very good way. And I like to think that we're the same as that. I don't like to. I don't like the vision of me being a fast food guy and a quick buck guy. I like that other vision, and where the quality is good and people come for good food, and it's as simple as that. And that's the vision I like best, and I think I know he gets that.
Tommy, I mean this, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, to hear your story. I desperately wish Tommy DiNics was in Australia, in Melbourne in particular. But absolutely, one day when I have good reason to come to Philadelphia, I know where I'll be going first. Thanks for being on Small Business Big Marketing.
The pleasure's all mine. Thanks for having me.
What about Tommy? I loved interviewing Tommy. He is a good fellow. He is a dedicated fellow. And you know what? Certainly doesn't think himself as a marketer, which many, many small businesses don't. But we've got to remind ourselves, the classic 4 Ps of marketing are product, price, place, and promotion. And so often we get caught up in that whole promotion aspect. Many people, when I ask them what marketing is, they'll say, it's advertising. That's just a tiny 15th part of marketing. Tommy's focus on his marketing is all about product. quality product. And what I found really interesting is in the local area where I live, there's a cafe that's opened up that's really, really struggling. They've invested a lot of money and I kind of feel like helping them. But what they've got wrong is their product. They could do all the promotion and all the everything else in the world, all the pricing, everything else, all the other little marketing levers in the world they could try to affect, but they've got their product wrong. Tommy has got his product fundamentally right, and I just wonder if many more small business owners in the world focused on delivering a quality product. I just wonder how much more successful they'd be instead of tipping more dough into, like Google AdWords or SEO or getting a better website or running more ads or doing a letterbox drop and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, love that interview. Tommy, thank you so much for being a part of the show. I know he's not listening anymore, but thanks anyway, Tommy. Love your work. Listeners, next week, next episode, as I mentioned at the front of this episode, I am interviewing a fellow who has created the most elegant of training products, showing us how to create quality video for our businesses using nothing more than our iPhone. And not only is the way he's put this training product together, which is available online, incredibly brilliant, and I want us to learn about that, but in fact, what he teaches around using your iPhone to create video is also incredibly beautifully presented, nice and simple. It's not technical, so you don't have to freak out about that. So really looking forward to that interview. That's it. Smallbusinessbigmarketing.com is where you want to go. You can find another 103 interviews that I've done with successful small business owners. You'll find my blog. You can sign up for my fast start marketing guide. I nearly said the word fart then. Lucky I didn't. And then you can also make contact with me, leave a voicemail message, ask me a question that I can read out on the show. If you want some marketing coaching, feel free to contact me, Tim at the Ideas Guy. No, it's not. It's Tim at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. That was one of my other email addresses, but that's the one you want to get me on for the show. Enough of that. Until next time, may your marketing be the best marketing. See ya.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.